Hi, here's a little something just for being you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Would you like a Sprite Mini?
No, that's okay.
Honey, I got 100. Honey,
Good, got it.
I got $100.
Hey.
Honey.
So we were just shooting a little TV show over there, and we were just getting a shot. But that $100 bill was all I had. So how about you give it back to me, and I'll go get change, and I'll buy that whole six-pack from you for $20.
She's not giving back to you. You gave her the money. It's a done deal.
Oh, come on. That's not fair. I'm going to buy the whole six-pack.
It's fair. We do. No refunds.
I'm going to buy the whole six-pack.
There's a sign.
Is that your dad? Can you tell them I'm going to buy a whole six-pack? Can you tell them? I'm going to buy the whole six-pack here. Here.
Give it back to her.
It's okay.
You can't do that or I'll curse you.
You know what?
I curse you.
Well, that sounds scary enough, doesn't it? That is from The Curse. New episodes every Saturday on Paramount, and James Dempsey's here to tell us more about it. That does sound very scary, James, I must say.
And it's a hilarious comedy, right? So it comes from two creators, one probably better known than the other, but both kind of cult creators at the same time. Nathan Fielder is who we heard in the clip there. He co-wrote this with Benny Safdie, and he stars in it, as does Safdie as well. Fielder is probably best known for he had these two comedy series. He's kind of like this, started on kind of late night comedy in the US. He is Canadian, and he has this sort of alternative, awkward styling, and he had a show called Nathan for You, where he would act as a consultant for people and come up with really madcap ways for them to, increase their business that were hilariously cringy and awkward. And then last year he had a show on HBO, or whatever it's been branded wherever you are in the world, called The Rehearsal, in which it was kind of a blend of therapy and reality TV, and odd, very odd, but very interesting. And Safdie is probably best known for Uncut Gems, the tensest Adam Sandler movie you have ever seen in your life.
Very hard to watch.
Right?
I found that very hard to watch. I didn't watch all of it.
Well, now you could watch 10 one-hour episodes of their comedy stylings put together, right? So I was reading a couple of reviews of this after I watched the episode, and in it, one of the reviewers was saying, this is immediate Marmite TV. You're either absolutely going to love it or you're absolutely going to hate it. And I was reading that thinking, I am literally on the fence. I just cannot decide what my thoughts are on this, because I watched the opening episode over the weekend, and it has stayed with me because it's such a strange comedy. So, let me go into what it is actually about, right? So it co-stars Fielder and Emma Stone, that Emma Stone, Oscar winner, and soon to be second time nominee, or whatever, the second time front runner this Oscar season. And they play a couple named Whitney and Asher Siegler, who are making a show for HGTV. Now, HGTV is Home and Garden Television. It is a real thing in the US. It is exceptionally popular, but we just don't really understand it because we don't have it. But it's just kind of like home makeover shows on steroids to the max, flipping things and blah blah blah. So they are a couple, and they're living in this town in New Mexico, and they are creating a pilot for their own home flipping show called Flipanthropy, where they are basically gentrifying the neighborhood. And Safdie plays Dougie, who is the kind of absolutely unscrupulous TV producer making the whole thing. And in this opening episode, what we heard is they get cursed by
a little girl.
By this little girl selling cans of Sprite in the car park. Right? So it is a comedy that is all derived on incredibly awkward social situations. But what makes it kind of so unique is just how long they stretch out of it, right? So that scene there that we heard, where we heard the curse being put upon him. I mean, the whole thing runs probably for 5 to 7 minutes of this hour-long TV show. It is just pulling the thread constantly without any kind of let up.
Is that anything just going through my mind to say The Office? Because The Office, it pulls things apart for days. Yeah. And let's face it, they're brilliant.
Yeah. Yes, right. And The Office kind of brought, the British Office will say, right? It ushered in this era of cringe as part of sitcom being very, very funny, that I would say was then carried on with Peep Show and things like that, right? This is like that if it was Train Spotting, right? It is absolutely and utterly relentless in its discomfort. I mean,
Right.
it was really like I'm almost glad that I didn't have any more episodes of it to watch, because I could imagine if you had to binge it, like I often have to binge things for this slot, I would probably not be in a fit state to talk to you, because it's just so overwhelming. Even just the bit of music we heard there, right? The soundtrack, the scoring is really uncomfortable and awkward. The way it's all framed in the show is, shots are often through windows or reflections in mirror, or like the table to the left. It's all kind of off kilter, off. It's all just off, right? Everything about it just feels slightly off, and yet I want to watch it, despite that. It's a very odd TV show. Whether or not it'll be in my top of the year remains to be seen.
Where's Emma Stone in it? Because she's such a star.
Yeah.
For such it sounds like a left field.
She is the female lead in this, right? So she is the wife of Nathan's Asher. She's Whitney. She's like a kind of, in the show we understand that her parents are described in this car crash interview they do with local news in the first episode as like slumlords in Santa Fe. This is all set in a real city called Espanola in New Mexico. And she is doing this kind of very brittle acting that she is excellent at. She has this, she has real good face acting skills, in the sense that she has, she's very manipulative with her eyes, and the purse of her lips you can infer an awful lot of what's going on inside. And she and he are kind of relatively newlyweds in the show. They've only been married for a year. Their marriage seems to be on thin ice even already before this curse is put upon them. And obviously then there's the stress of trying to make this show, which is all about taking shots at reality TV in general, but like the whole kind of role of white saviors coming in to to this town, which is obviously predominantly Latino town, but with like local Native American tribes as well, and saying, we're building you this house and creating these jobs, but they're all completely gentrified and silly and ridiculous, and not in any way going to lift anyone up. And yes, it's a comedy.
It sounds fascinating at the very least. I think people, you can't really give it a recommendation. All you can do is say, try this.
Yes,
and you
that's
may
all I
love
can
it,
say.
And you may not.
You may not.
Right, we're on to our second one, which is Culprits, which is streaming at the moment, all episodes on Disney+. Take a listen to this.
This is Titus Wainwright. He was a mill owner, an extremely wealthy one. About 100 or so years ago, Titus hired this man, Ernest Morello, to design and build him a vault. Morello was a genius. His vaults were way ahead of their time, unbreakable. So Morello built Titus a vault, and they hid that vault in the depths of a building, hidden in plain sight. And for years, Titus squirreled his wealth inside it. But as the industrial boom ended, Titus's star waned, he liquidated. And so the vault was cleared out and abandoned. It was sealed up and forgotten. For much of the 20th century, the property above it was used for offices and retail, with nobody knowing what was hidden below.
So is the vault still there?
Yes.
But it's empty now.
No, it's not empty. A whole new generation of fat cats has unearthed it, resurrected it, and repurposed it.
To hide their wealth.
Exactly.
And you brought us together to rob it.
I did.
So a team of crack experts in stealing things have been put together. That old...
Pretty much,
That
yeah.
old gem,
It is a heist drama, right? And, roughly I think around this time last year, Netflix released this. This is a Disney Plus one. Netflix released their own one. It was called Kaleidoscope. And the gimmick of that one was that each individual Netflix account would get the order of episodes in a random order, right? So you might, and like, it was a total gimmick because you cannot watch any series out of order. And it's all the same, right?
Yeah.
But this, when I compare this to that, this is a much more thrilling, interesting, and like satisfying heist show that maybe goes on for 2 episodes more than it needs to.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a very modern problem, right? So it is created
Sure
by a
is.
man. I know. It's created by a man named Jay Blakeston, who is probably best known for directing the film I Care a Lot with Rosamund Pike about 2 years ago. But he has worked with Gemma Arterton, who we heard doing a lot of the expository reading there in The Disappearance of Alice Creed. And she plays this woman named Diane Harewood or Harwood. She's Brain. They all have they all have code names that they only go by. So she's joined by Muscle and Officer and Greaser and eventually by Specialist, who's played by Mullingar's own Niamh Algar, who steals the scene in absolutely every episode that she's in. She plays like she's a character who is called Specialist, who's sort of a military specialist, who all of the others call Psycho behind her back.
Mullingar.
Joe
Dolan has under pressure now, is he?
There's no show like a
my God.
So we follow the main character of the show named Joe. He is Muscle, also known as David. He's played by Nathan Stewart Jarrett, who people would know from The Misfits. And where we find him, or what I think works so well in the show is each episode is split across 3 different timelines. So we have before, during, and after. And where we meet him first, it's after, 3 years after this heist has taken place. So we already know in the first episode that the heist is successful, right? But what works very cleverly throughout the kind of run of the series is we learn that it doesn't go to plan while they're doing it, and how successful has it been, etc. And right at the very beginning, various different members of the team are being murdered by another actual Irishman. Ned Dennehy is his name. He plays this absolutely psychopathic murderer, and he's going after each one of the team one by one. And there's just there's uncertainty and intrigue about who's behind all of this. It is a very stylish, well-made heist, and I find it very, very compelling.
Okay, so I've said it sounds great, and I'll be willing towards it. To James, thank you very much for your recommendation of the Last Stop to Larma on Netflix. Most bizarre and brilliant documentary. I've seen that's Kieran in Cork. We have our third one now is 007, excuse me, Road to a Million, streaming on Amazon Prime at the moment. Take a listen to this.
You're in the Inner Hebrides, some of the most rugged and beautiful islands in the world. Buried here are said to be the remains of over 40 Scottish kings who ruled these lands in the Dark Ages. One of these kings was immortalized by Shakespeare. What was that king's name? Hamlet? Richard III? Macbeth?
Hamlet definitely was a Danish.
Hamlet's he's the one who speaks to the skull, isn't it?
Yeah. Hamlet was a prince for a start.
Macbeth's the witches, isn't it? The witches are around him and all that.
Macbeth's Scottish.
Well, I get that with the name Matt.
But the thing is
Richard III a Shakespeare play?
Yeah. Richard III is the disabled king. I don't remember anything about him being Scottish. I feel like he's an English king.
Well, I think a lot of people listening to that will take heart about their knowledge of Shakespeare. I certainly do. Sounds very intriguing. Brian Cox, obviously.
Yeah.
And
this is, all right. So basically, imagine you're the Broccoli family and you have the rights to James Bond as as intellectual property, and your last actor has just gone, I'm not doing any more of these. So you wound up with him, and you can't figure out what you're going to do next. And Amazon says, we'll just give you a load of money to make a reality TV show. And you go, yeah, grand. And
does anybody ever say no?
No, right. So that's what they've done. So essentially, the way they bill it is there are 9 pairs of people who we heard there are the Bone brothers, aptly named James, one of them, James and Joey Bone, from obviously London. And in the opening episode, we see them take their first steps on the road to a million, because each pair has the potential to win £1 million sterling. And to do that, they have to go on what are classed as James Bond-esque missions. So Brian Cox delivers from a sound booth somewhere these cryptic instructions, and they have to go in search always of an aluminium suitcase, which they then open and has a question with 3 potential answers that they have to work out. And I have to, my jaw nearly dropped when I heard that first question on how easy it was. But then they get much, much, much more difficult. Now, while you're doing this, if you're watching this, on Amazon Prime Video, Amazon has this thing called X-Ray, which is on the interface. When you pause it, it'll give you little facts and Easter eggs of what's going on. So they are leaning heavily into the James Bond lore here, because they tell you like, oh, this is filmed, this is filmed on a location. They're using the car that they used in Dr. No. The circles on the screen are supposed to represent this, blah, blah, blah. And maybe if you're a big Bond aficionado, you will really enjoy an awful lot of this. If you're not, It's a kind of odd little Amazing Race meets Taskmaster meets
Are these real humans or are they celebrities?
These are real human beings.
So they would be happy to win $1 million as
They
opposed
would
to
be
celebrities who
delighted.
would notice.
They would, they have to get through multiple challenges. So they start, I think, with just the first question for £5,000, and then the next one is 25,000, and they are whipped off to very exotic locations. We heard the Scottish Hebrides there, but then they go to Venice, then they go to the Amazonian jungle,
right?
Then they go, all over the world.
Yeah.
On Bezos's budget, and frankly, they've thrown an awful lot of money at this, and it is absolutely grand.
Okay, absolutely grand. Yeah. Oh my God. It's
Rage.
as close to the middle of the road as you can get. Yeah, it's completely acceptable. Wow. Right, damned with faint praise.
Sorry, yeah.
If ever I heard it. All right, fair enough. So, what do they expect messing around with the 007 moniker? Farmer Broccoli, how dare you? What are you thinking of? James, thank you very much for that.